Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking more about the Civil War and how it all comes to a close. The war's end. After 4 years of bitter struggle and sacrifice, the Confederacy stood on the brink of defeat. As Lee prepared to surrender to Grant, Lincoln began to plan for the future. The Civil War had lasting effects on both the North and the South. With the fighting over, Americans faced the difficult challenge of rebuilding their nation. Powerful artillery such as this cannon, known as the Dictator, helped the Union secure a victory at Petersburg after months of siege. Union forces lay siege to Petersburg. In the summer of 1864, Grant continued his bloody drive toward Richmond, but at Petersburg, about 20 miles south of Richmond, the Confederates made a desperate stand. Petersburg was a vital railroad center. If Grant captured it, he could cut all supply lines to Richmond. As he had at Vicksburg, Grant turned to siege tactics. Throughout the summer and fall and into the winter, his forces tightened their grip around Petersburg. Both sides dug trenches and threw up fortifications to guard against attack. By March 1865, the two opposing lines of defense stretched for more than 30 miles around Petersburg. So this is going to be a massive siege battle. They're still going to use the same tactics that had given them victory at Vicksburg, but what we are seeing here is that it's being done on an even bigger scale. The fighting was fierce. Union troops suffered more than 40,000 casualties. The Confederates lost 28,000 men. However, unlike Grant, Lee had no replacement troops in reserve. As the siege of Petersburg wore on, Union strength grew in comparison to the Confederate defenders. So they have Petersburg completely locked in. The Confederates have a defensible position, but they are not getting any supplies. There's nobody can come in and nobody can get out. So while they can stay defended, as this fighting is going on and they're losing soldiers, they can't get reinforcements. Grant, on the other hand, can. He can get reinforcements, and does. And as this fighting drags on, the Confederate defenders just get fewer and fewer and fewer as the fighting rages on. Lincoln plans to heal the nation. With the Confederate position truly desperate, Southerners began to talk of peace. In February 1865, a party led by Confederate Vice President Alexander Stephens met with Lincoln to discuss a feasible end to the war. However, these discussions produced no results. One reason for the failure was that the U.S. Congress, with Lincoln's support, had recently proposed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. If ratified, the amendment would outlaw slavery in the United States. The Confederate peace delegation was unwilling to accept a future without slavery. The 13th Amendment was ratified in December of 1865. Despite the failure of the February meeting, Lincoln was confident of an eventual victory. He now began to turn his attention to the process of bringing the Confederate States back into the Union. This would be no easy task. Many Northerners had a strong desire to punish the South harshly. So, the U.S. Congress, with Lincoln's support, is proposing the 13th Amendment. And what the 13th Amendment says is that there can be no slavery at all in any of the United States. And due to that, the Confederates were unwilling to accept a peace delegation because it meant the end of slavery. So, once again, if somebody tries to tell you that the Civil War was not fought over slavery, they're misleading you. Lincoln had a different goal. While committed to the defeat of the Confederacy and an end to slavery, he believed that the Union should strike a more generous stance with the rebellious states. At the beginning of March, in his second inaugural address, Lincoln declared his vision of a united and peaceful nation. With malice toward none, Lincoln said, Americans should do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. So in his inaugural address, his second inaugural address, he is telling the nation we need peace. We need to have a peaceful resolution so that we can get all of our states back together. Because the Confederacy had lasted for 4 years. That's how long the Confederacy lasted, 4 years. And during that time, the nation was cut in half. So Lincoln is trying to heal the nation. He's trying to bring everybody back together. The Confederates surrender at Appomattox. Several weeks later, the Confederates made a desperate attempt to break the siege. They failed. Recognizing that the situation was hopeless, Lee ordered a retreat from Petersburg on the night of April 2, 1865. Richmond, now defenseless, was evacuated and set aflame. Lee's one hope was to join with Confederate forces in North Carolina. Setting out on the march, the men suffered from a lack of food and constant harassment by Union forces. Finally, Lee and his starving, exhausted soldiers were trapped at the town of Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. On April 9th, Lee formally surrendered to Grant. The Union general refused to allow his troops to gloat. "The war is over," he said. "The rebels are our countrymen again." So, even Grant is saying, we're not going to punish these people. They are our countrymen now. They have rejoined the nation. They are our fellow statesmen, and we are not going to gloat. We're not going to punish them or humiliate them. We are going to bring them back into the nation and get on with our business. Juneteenth. Lee's surrender did not officially end the war. The South still had some 170,000 soldiers under arms, and it took until June for other Confederate generals scattered across the South to complete similar surrenders. In Texas, African Americans celebrated June 19, 1865 as Juneteenth, the day the news of surrender reached the Southwest. The president is slain. On April 14th, just days after Lee's surrender, Lincoln decided to relax by attending a new comedy, Our American Cousin, at nearby Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. During the performance, actor and Confederate supporter John Wilkes Booth approached the president's private box. Booth fired a single shot into the back of Lincoln's head. Leaping to the stage, he was heard to call out, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus ever to tyrants, the motto of Virginia, and "the South is avenged." Mortally wounded, Lincoln died the next morning. Booth became the target of a massive manhunt. After several days, he was shot and killed while hiding in a barn in Virginia. Soon, it was discovered that Booth had been part of a plot to kill not only Lincoln, but also the Vice President and the Secretary of State. So originally the plan, this is the assassination of Lincoln. And originally the plan was also to take out the Vice President and the Secretary of State. So John Wilkes Booth had plans to wipe out many of the high-ranking officials of the government. Now, I've been to Ford Theater. It's actually really neat how they have it set up. You can go and take a tour there. Well, once COVID lockdowns are lifted, but the way that the tour goes is they actually have you walk the actual path that John Wilkes Booth walked on his way to commit this assassination. They have you walk through these. It's literally the way he would have walked on his way to go commit this murder. Now they have the actual box, where Lincoln was sitting and the seat and everything, roped off. You can't go in there where it actually happened, but you can see it. And it's really neat. It's all set up to talk about how all this assassination was arranged and the people involved. And it's actually, it's a sad situation that happened there, but it's really neat. It's really neat in kind of a morbid way. I mean, they don't show you anything graphic or disgusting, but like you're walking and there's down these hallways, and it's really neat because the whole time, you know, as you're walking on the path that he would take through the hallways and stuff, they have like pictures on the wall of John Wilkes Booth and the people that were involved, and there's speakers in that hallway, and this has really stuck with me. There's speakers in that hallway where it's just a clock ticking, tick, 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 and knowing that you're walking where the assassin walked to kill Lincoln, and hearing that tick, 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 just like it's a really neat effect. If you ever get a chance to check it out, I highly recommend it. It was it's really neat in kind of a grim way. Like I said, there's nothing graphic, nothing. They don't like show you, or like there's nothing grotesque to look at. It's just, you know, that a bad thing happened here. So it's a really neat. You should really check it out if you get the chance. The plotters hoped to cause chaos and panic in the North, thereby giving the South time to regroup and continue the war. Although Secretary of State William Seward was attacked and seriously injured by one of Booth's accomplices, Booth was the only man to carry out his part of the plot. 4 of his accomplices were later hanged as co-conspirators. Lincoln's tragic death had a deep political impact. His murder united his Northern supporters and critics, who now saw him as both a hero and a symbol of freedom. Gone was the strong, skilled leader who had guided the nation through its greatest crisis. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. I hope everybody's having a great day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye.